we will discuss. First, we will finish the break-even point analysis part. Then we will start the investment appraisal part. Right? If I go. Right. Now you can see the board. Can you remember this one? This is the time. This is value. Right? I told you we have fixed cost. Then we have variable cost. Right? You can bring the same thing here. So it will be parallel lines. This is variable cost. This is total cost. Right? Then we have sales line, which is the total revenue line. Right? Total revenue line. We are discussing about break-even point. Right? What is break-even point? Is the point at which revenue generated equals the cost associated with generating that revenue. That means no profit, no loss situation. See this line. This is the line where your revenue goes. This is the line your cost goes. So at this point, right, you are equalizing the revenue and the cost. So this is the break-even point. So this is quantity. Right? So this point will be Q break-even. This value break-even. Turnover break-even turnover. Right? So this is the point. Up to this point, from here, starting to this point, we are making a loss. See, always your revenue line is lower than the total cost line. From this point onward, we are making profit. Right? See, revenue line is above the cost line. We have covered all the revenue and we have started making profit. Right? Then we discuss few points. First one, contribution. Second, margin of safety. Right? Margin of safety. What's it? It is the difference between the actual sales or the projected sales and the break-even point. Like we say, Q projected is this much. Right? So if you project this one upward, you have a revenue here. Right? That means this is the margin of safety, which is QP minus Q break even. That is the amount where the sales volume can drop without creating a loss. So it is the safety. You can drop your sales without creating a loss to the business. Right? So this is called margin of safety. Right? Then before this, you can see this side. This part you can see. We predicted the P&L, which is like normally we write the P&L this way, vertically. If you write it horizontally, we have turnover equals variable cost plus fixed cost, overheads, right? Fixed cost plus profit. This is our profitability. So can I erase this? Right? I will erase this part so I have the board clear for you. So hope you understood this graph, and this is the basic of it. So business formula is turnover equals, we write the normal way, direct cost plus overhead cost plus profit. Right? This is the P&L. Writing horizontally. Direct cost, we call it variable cost plus overhead, which is the fixed cost, plus profit. Variable cost is the cost associated with producing one additional unit. Those are costs like direct labor, raw material, electricity, those things, which is the direct cost of the P&L. This is administration overhead, selling, finance, interest, those things. Right? These are the fixed costs. Whether you produce or not, whether your production facility is open or not, you have to incur this cost. So it is fixed. You sell 1 unit, still you have to incur everything. You sell 1000 units, still you have to incur the same thing. Right? So this is the cost. Then we went on to say variable cost, turnover equals price into quantity. Variable cost equals variable per unit into quantity plus fixed cost plus profit. We bring this to this side. Price Q minus VQ into quantity equals fixed cost plus profit. Take this 2 out. Quantity equals profit minus variable cost per unit, fixed cost plus profit. So quantity equals fixed cost plus profit divided by price minus variable cost per unit, VCQ. Right? So this is the quantity formula. Right? if you want to find the break-even quantity, when you have break-even quantity, this is equal to 0. Right? Break-even quantity, whenever you have to find break-even quantity, profit equal to 0. Break-even point is the point at which no profit, no loss. Right? So, this can be written as fixed cost plus price minus variable cost per unit. Right? This one is called contribution. That means amount of money available to compensate the fixed cost and the profit. Per unit you sell, what is the amount of money left out after collecting the variable, after compensating for the variable cost? What is the money left out to cover up the fixed cost and towards the profit? We say we are selling a 1 unit of this pen for 100 rupees. Right? The variable cost of this is around 70 rupees. Right? You have price equal 100, variable cost equal 70. Right? So your contribution, which is equal to P minus VQ, equals 100 minus 70, which is equal to 30 rupees. So whenever you sell 1 unit, you recover your variable cost and you contribute, or you give 30 rupees towards fixed cost. Right? When you sell another unit, you recover your 70 and you add another 30 towards this. Like that, you go on providing for the fixed cost. There will be one point where you give money to recover this. That is the point where the break-even occurs. Right? That is the break-even. Then we did the sum about break-even during the class. Then we have another sum. The presentation we were talking about, and this is what we did last week. Then this was done, right? Last week we did this sum, right? I'll take this out. So it is quantity right? Quantity equals fixed cost plus profit divided by price minus variable cost per unit. Right? This is the form. So the question given is selling price P equals 50, variable cost VQ equals 40, fixed cost was 7,000. 70,000, sorry. $70,000, right? But budgeted sales 7,500 units. QB by step is equal to 7,500 units. Right. So we apply this formula to that. First, to find out break even Q, break even. Then to find out margin of safety. Right. Hope you can see the board. Now we go on. Okay. We can see the board this side. So we are using this formula. I think we did this some, but I'm just refreshing you. Right? Q equals, you want to find out break even, quantity break even. That means this is 0. So fixed cost divided by price minus variable quantity, variable cost per unit is your formula. So fixed cost is 70,000, price is 50, then 40 is our variable cost per unit. So your contribution would be 70,000 divided by 10. 10 is the contribution. Right? So your break-even point QBE equals 7,000. Right? Then you have to find out the margin of safety, which is equal to Q budgeted minus Q break even. Right? Margin of safety is the difference between the budgeted quantity and the break even quantity. 77,500 minus 7,000. So it is 500 units. Right? This is 500 units. Right? You did this last week. I'm just brushing you through before I come to the profit part of it. Right? So we go to the, so hope all of you are in line and you are in the same phase. Now we will go to the second question. This is it. Right. Target profit. So this. Now we talk about target profit. That means we were earlier talking zero profit. Now we tell we want to target a profit. I want 10,000 rupees profit. So we have the fixed cost and we have a figure for this. So it is fixed cost plus a profit. So we consider this as a total fixed cost. And we say price minus V, variable cost, which is the contribution. So now you need to find out a quantity where this is the contribution for per quantity per unit. What is the, this is the amount per unit you provide towards collecting fixed cost. So when you are talking about a profit requirement, we add both and consider it as a one single way fixed cost. Right? What is the firm does? Just want break even, right? Contribution will need to cover profit as well. Required profit treat as an additional fixed cost. So we treat the profit and the fixed cost together. So it is an additional fixed cost to you. We'll go to the question now. Right, this is the question. We have P equals 35, VQ equals 20, fixed cost equals 50,000. You want a profit of 10,000, right? This is the question. Okay. This is the question. Now we want to find out the quantity which I need to sell in order to generate 10,000 profit. The question here is not to find the break even. It is to find the quantity I am required to sell in order to get 10,000 rupees profit, right? So your formula is this: fixed cost, which is 50,000. Now instead of a 0 profit, you have a 10,000 profit, right? Price is 35. This one. Variable cost is 20, right? This is the contribution. So it is 60,000 divided by 15. So it is 4,000 quantity to get 10,000 profit equals 4,000. It is very simple. You add the profit to the fixed cost and consider fixed cost and profit together as one fixed cost. Then you divide by contribution per unit. That means 15 rupees from each unit will be provided towards fixed cost and the profit. So you need to sell 4,000 units to generate 10,000 rupee profits. Right? This is the answer. Okay. Then these are the limitations of break-even point. Right? We analyze only the supplier side of it. We don't talk about the buyer side. That means the demand side. We think whatever we produce, we can sell. And again, we think our production equal to sales. I think I discussed this also with you last time, but I'm just pushing you through, right? So we are not bothered about the demand for my product. And again, when we are calculating this, we consider sales equals the production. And again, we think the fixed variable cost and the fixed cost are fixed. Variable cost per unit is fixed. We are not considering the efficiency increase with the increase in production. We just think whatever we produce, we can sell. The increase in production and the efficiencies created when you are increasing the production, we are not considering. Then time value of money is not considered. Next week, we will discuss time value of money, not this way under this class. Time value of money is the value of a rupee today and tomorrow, right? What can I do with 1 rupee today or 1 rupee which I will earn tomorrow, right? That is time value. පාංගෙඩියක් ගන්න කොච්චර යනවාද කියලා. Right? Let us go to the other slide now. So this is investment appraisal, right? So we will discuss what is investment appraisal and the basic topics on that. Project financing and those stuff. These are the objectives today to understand the importance of investment decision making. What is project financing? Concept of time value we will be doing next week. We have 4 investment appraisal methods. Out of that, most probably, basically I will do 2 today and 2 with the concept of time value next week. Right? So we go to the nature of investment decision making. Here we are not talking about a grocery shop or a small dispensary or a small injection molding unit or five machines garment factory. No, we are not talking about small investments. We are talking about big investments like a solar farm where you have 10 megawatt solar or 20 megawatt solar, like a hydropower plant, coal power plant, railway lines. Yes, in our country, railway owns by the government, so it is the government, right? But some other countries, like even in India, some railway lines are owned by private sector. Indian Railway is there, but you need to build, like once I was in India and one of my batchmates, he was creating a village, right? Because they had a coal mine. So in order to use this coal mine, you have to create a village because you need people to work in the coal mine. So you get people there. Then schools, hospitals, everything they built near the coal mine. Then you need that coal mine, the produce of the coal mine come into the main railway line. So they had to build a railway track. So when I went there, they were in the building stage and they were building the railway track. So this is a huge project. They have to look after the coal mine operation. They have to look after the society. Then they have to look after the transport, that is the infrastructure, technical aspects, everything. Right? So these are large investments. Or building a ship is a large investment. Right? Like investing to build A380 4-engine passenger carrier, the largest in the world. So you have R&D. Like that, you have investment. These are large investment. These are not smaller investment. And the investment, the money required is long-term in nature. You can't get a 1 year, 9 months facility and think about building a A380. Right? Now we are talking about creating planes and jets which will take humans for space tourism. We just saw the first ever space tourism transaction. There's one person went to the International Space Center and he came back, right? 2 weeks ago. So these are the investment, big investment we are talking under project financing, right? So it is funding requirement is in long-term nature, large investment rather than small investment, more complicated forms of cash flows, right? If you can remember, I told you we have asset based financing, cash flow based financing, right? This cash flow base is twofold: known cash flows, and this side it is projected cash flows, right? Known cash flows are what? Post-dated checks, GRNs, invoices, those things. We know that within 10 days or 15 days or 90 days, we will get 1 million. Right? So we know the quantity, the value, and we know the time. But here, the second one, which is the more complicated one, it is the projected. Based on some assumptions, based on assumptions, we project the future. Like we say, this one, mini hydro or hydro power plant, not hydro, mini hydro. We say, if it rains, normally based on last 10 years weather patterns, these months we get rain up to this amount, then we will be able to get the water head required and we will be able to generate 25,000 units per day. Government is ready to purchase that at 12 rupees a unit. Right? So we know what is the projected income. We can project the cost. All these are projected. Here we know for a fact we will get this money. But this is if it rains. If it is a solar power, if the sun rises, and if no clouds. So based on the historical weather patterns, we say, okay, this period we don't have clouds. Sunrise at 6 o'clock, sets at 5:58. That's the normal pattern. Based on that pattern, our equipment can produce this much solar energy. So if we produce that amount of solar energy, government is ready to buy. Or you can say we are starting a 1,000 machine garment factory, right? So we have 1,000 machines, we have 1,200 people, big ones. If everyone start working and we know to produce one shirt, what is the machine time required? Right? Based on that, we say we can produce this much shirts. Each shirt can be sold at this price. So I will generate this much income. So we should know the market. We should know the technicalities. We should know the pricing. Then we project the revenue. So these kind of things, it is based on complicated cash flow projections. Right? More complicated form concerning future cash flows and time value of money. Importance, large amount of resources are often involved, business strategy, profitability, and we need survival. Because bailing out, we do a project, invest so much resources there, it's not only cash, man hours, people, environment, society, everything. Then if it fails, bailing out would be very, very difficult and costly. So project financing, we have two things, rationally for project finance and project rationally. Why project financing? Why the project? That is the layman's term. Why project financing and why are we doing the project? Why project financing? It is to bridge the gap of financing, bridging the funding gap. Then need is long term, not short term. That's why we want project financing. Why are we doing this project? What is the logic and desired outcome? What is the logic to do? Why do you want the coal plant? I was telling you about my friend's experience. Why? Because coal is a big required commodity in India. Like from houses to power plants to steel plants to everything, they use coal. Right? So, in order to use this coal, you need to get the coal out from the ground. So, we need to build this. Because we have a demand. So, we intend to supply for that demand. That is the rationale behind. Then project financing. This is the definition of project financing. Long-term financing of infrastructure and O, you should have a and O and stroke O, industrial projects based on the projected cash flows of the project rather than the balance sheet of the sponsors. Right. What does this mean? Any project, there will be someone who is behind and who is doing the project, the owners of the project. Right? In my example earlier, it was Tata Group. It was Tata Group who was doing the project. Now, when you are thinking of financing, I will not think that if the project fails, I will go behind Tata Group and collect. No. I am thinking purely on the terms of the viability of the project. Right? Nothing else. It is the viability of the project. So, what is the income generating capacity? I'm looking at that. Balance sheet, the wealth and the creditworthiness, so all those things of the sponsors are secondary. Primarily, I will look at the cash flows of the project when I take my primary decision on lending. Project financing structure involves number of equity investors known as the sponsors, as well as syndicate of banks, several banks, or other lending instruments that provide loans to the operation, right? See, we want to create a huge heart unit in Sri Lanka, right? So it can be Durdens and Navaloka coming together to create this facility. So there would be the project sponsors, equity investors, whatever the, like any project, we will be funding based by equity and term loans. So the investors will give the equity part, banks will give the term loan. Hope you can remember. Fixed assets, balance sheet, fixed assets, current liabilities, net current assets or current liabilities, total assets financed by equity, reserves, net worth, term loans, total capital, right? This is called equity capital. This is called loan and debt capital. This is debt capital, right? The money from the sponsors is here. Money from the banks is here. So we want a heart center in Colombo, which will require 10 billion rupees, right? %, equity capital, 60% debt capital. That means 6 billion here and 4 billion here. Okay. Now we say Durdens and Navaloka, two giants in hospitals. 50% and 50%. That means 2 billion equity and 2 billion equity. That's the equity. Then we have several, like in this kind of a scenario, one single bank will not provide money because it is too risky. One hand, right? Too risky to have a huge amount given out. If something goes wrong, bank will get an unbearable hit. That's the first one. Second one, we are not capable of giving that big money, right? So we will get several banks. Okay, 25% BOC, 20% People's Bank, 15% Sampat Bank. Like that, you have several banks coming together. Then we call this number of banks are called syndicate syndicate of banks. We call this kind of loans syndicate loans. In the future, we will discuss what is a syndicate loan is, right? Coming together several banks to finance one project is called syndicate of loan banks. Right? So project financing structure involves number of equity investors known as sponsors as well as syndicate banks or lending institutions that provide loans to the operation. Right? The loans are secured by project assets, non-recourse loans. So loans will be secured by project assets. Like here in Sri Lanka, whenever we do a smaller loan, we ask for mortgages, and on top of that we ask for the personal guarantees, corporate guarantees, all those stuff. Right? Under project financing, security would be the project assets and income generating contracts. If it is a solar project, we take the contract between the company and the government to purchase, repurchase agreement, power repurchase agreement. So that is the revenue generating contract. Without that contract, no one can sell to the government. Government will not buy. You need to have a contract. So security would be the project assets and the income generating contracts, not the assets of the sponsors. In case of a default, we will go behind the project assets, not behind the sponsors. That is what we call non-recourse loans. Sponsors will be there. If the project fails, bank has to deal with the project, not with the sponsor. That's what non-recourse or not based on the balance sheet of the sponsors. Facilities are paid entirely from project cash flows rather than from the general assets or credit worthiness of the sponsors. That's what I told you now. Project lenders are given a lien on all these assets and are able to assume control of the project if the project company has difficulty to comply with the loan terms. That means payments will be done through this project only, and if the project sponsors find it difficult to pay, banks are allowed to take over the project and give it to someone else. Right? So it is the project assets and the revenue generating contract. So project financing is long-term financing of infrastructure and or industrial projects based on the projected cash flows of the project rather than the balance sheet of the sponsor. The loans are secured by project asset, so it is a non-recourse loan. Right? Then we go to the type of project cycle. So on a project cycle, we have several things. First of all, you need to identify a project. Right? In my coal example, they had identified a coal mine. In Sri Lanka, we have graphite mines, mineral Tatal. Then we have gem mines. Then we have silica sand mine. Right? So you have to identify. So you have a paper mill, Ambilipiti, if I think correct. Ambilipiti paper mill. It's a project. So we want to revive that Ambilipiti paper mills. So you need infrastructure, you need machinery, you need human capital, you need market, everything. So you have to identify the project first. So the project is to bring the amblyopia paper corporation or to get a heart idea of bringing up a heart surgical unit. Then formulate it. What are the things you need to do? Then you appraise different areas you need to appraise. Then once you do everything, you implement. Then you monitor. And the cycle goes on. Identify, formulate, appraise, implement, operate, and monitor. Right? These are the life of a project cycle. Different stages of project cycle: identification, formulation, project appraisal. So under project appraisal, we have market appraisal, technical appraisal, management, economical, environmental, financial. Right? We have to identify pestly environment. That's the macro picture. Right? So we will be talking about each of these items. Then you need to identify the cost of the project, how much you need to invest in this project, working capital calculations. But we discussed working capital is the liquidity of the business. That means the money required to day-to-day operations of the business. Right? We identify all those things. Then what we do, we have to project the profitability. We are not talking about charity projects here. We are talking about profit-making project, commercial viable projects. So you need to have a profitability projection. You need to have a balance sheet projection. You need to have a cash flow projections for a project. Then you start evaluating several projects because we have limited money. I'm an investor. I have limited money. So I will think over whether to invest in a heart unit or a hotel or a coal power plant. So same money. What will give me the maximum return on my money? Day before yesterday, I met a hotelier. He has 10 hotels. He wants to invest on another hotel. So he is evaluating. So he will have to evaluate all these things: market, technical, management, human capital, or environmental items, financial appraisal, projections of how many tourists will come and all those things. So you have to. If you are doing a project for a funeral parlor, still you have to do this. See, we at Borel, we have largest funeral parlors just near us. Why? Borel Cemetery is here. So everyone has to come here. And it is high end. You and me can't go there. One graveyard may cost 5 million rupees. Right? So the funeral parlors, they start with 200,000 rupees a coffin. Like that, it caters to different markets. You go to the village, you have a small place, 30,000 rupees. Dying is easy, burying is difficult. And all these are commercial projects. You go to the funeral parlor, they'll ask you, which wood do you want the coffin? You can get it from oak to aluminium to everything. And it comes with rubber as well. So you have a variety. That is to cater the demand. Right? So you first talk about market in anything. So once we do the appraisal part, we have to compare whether to invest in a funeral parlor or a heart surgical unit or a big Montessori or whatever based on the projects available. So we will look at payback period, ARR, NPV and IRR. This graphical formulation of that, the same thing. Right. Then we come to the first topic, market appraisal. Right. In any project, market appraisal is the key. We can't do any project without knowing the market. When I was a credit officer long years ago, actually I did a funeral parlor, financing a funeral parlor. Those days, funeral parlors are not luxurious like this and not beautiful like this. So my project was to create a beautiful, luxurious funeral parlor in Gampa. Right? So I had to find out how many people dies per day. Why? In order to find out his income. Because I am investing on a building and other things to attract people. We say 20 people die. Out of that, he may attract 10-50% of the market share. So I have to analyze the market, the product what he is going to give. So think about a ice cream manufacturer, right? February, before COVID start, I met a customer. He's an export of coconut milk. And he had created ice cream using coconut milk. Right? Can you imagine? Coconut milk and ice cream. Raha මොන වගේ තියෙයිද? That was my first question. Is it different taste? Right? What is the product or what is the service we are going to analyze? First, you have to look at what the product is. Project the demand. Right? You heard about Walls ice creams? Now we have Cargill's Magic. That's originally it came to Sri Lanka. Many of you may have not been born at that time. To Sri Lanka, that was late 19 or mid 1990s, right? It came to Sri Lanka, right? So when it came, it was like a fashion to, it is a fashion, not a passion, it is a fashion to go and eat Walls ice cream. So these people, they tested Walls in Nigambu market and Candy market. Two extreme markets. Nigambu is a high spending market. When still is the same, those days also it was the same, right? When you go from Gampaha to Nigambu, when you are approaching Nigambu, you can feel everything changes, economy changes, the patterns of houses changes, the size of the houses changes, businesses changes. So that is a different economy Nigambu had. So they are high spending economy, right? So they tested this Walls ice cream there. Then they went to candy. Candy is a different market. They close at 7, traditional, but they spend, right? Nigambu does not sleep till 10, 11. Candy sleeps by 7. So these are two extreme markets. They came into the market, they did the market study using this. Based on that, they did everything. Then they had to close down within maybe 10 years, less than 10 years. Right? They had to sell it. Then think about McDonald's. McDonald's came to Sri Lanka somewhere in 1997. Right? It started from Kolpiti. I was in the first few days, I was in the queue. We had to wait for 2 hours to go get into the McDonald's and take a burger. Right? With like first day or second day, I can't remember. The promoters announced we are going to open this much outlets within 1 year. Now, 97, 2007, 10 years, 13 years gone. No, 23 years gone. How many McDonald's outlets we have in the country? 10, 15, something like that, 10. So market is very different. You have to identify the market, project the demand. So new Gen Z or the millennials, their thinking patterns are, your thinking patterns is different from my generation. Your thinking pattern is different from my generation. Right? Now, again, the thinking pattern has changed. Made in Sri Lanka has come in. Like that, your thinking patterns and demands shifted from time to time. So market appraisal tackle these things. What is the product? What will be the demand for this service? Then we project the future demand. There will be imports. Export market should be there. See, in Sri Lanka, we have 22 million people. Australia also, they have 22 million people. We are vastly different. Whatever we produce, we should not produce to our own society. We should be able to export it. Our coconut, our king coconut, even our cosate, we can export. But we have to think and do those things. So you need to export everything. We need, whenever you are projecting something, when you are doing a market analysis, you have to think about the imports and the possibility of export as well. Then you have to think about the competition and the major competitors. Competition is huge. Think about school shoes. Who controls the market? Market is controlled by two major players. School shoes. Not the ladies' beautiful shoes. I'm talking about the school shoes. Right? These two competitors can sell under the cost for a year to wipe out a new entry. Right? There's a story. They say 90s, 80s, I think. I'm not sure the period. There's one cigarette company, right? They were selling very, very well, but no products on the shelves. Whatever they produce, they say it gone. So they invested heavily on this plant. Then suddenly one day, no product was selling. Everything left. Then they had to do an analysis. Why? What happened? Till yesterday, everything was well and good. But today, no one is buying my product. Why is that? Then to find one of the big competitors was purchasing all the goods. Whenever they put to the market, competitor comes and buy everything. Two things. Then product is not available in the market. So people will not know about the product. The second thing, you invest, thinking that the market is huge. You come into a breaking point. So it is easy for me to take over. That is the danger in any commercial product. Right? When your product is not available on the shelves, competition will create. Others will come and put. Because people will come to search your product. Then when it is not there, they will pick something else and go. Right? So it is the competition and major competition you have to look at. Then based on this volume of expected sales only, we can look at the production capacity. So first of all, before doing anything, you need to find out the market, ability to sell and the quantities which I can sell. Based on that only, we think over the production capacities, factory capacities, then human resource requirements, everything we look at afterwards. First and key most important thing is the market or the commercial assessment. Determining your market, it is difficult, right? But you need to look at these 7 points when you are talking about the market. Consumption, right? The consumption pattern of sugar. If you are dealing sugar, you have to think what will happen in the near future. Will they go for the normal cane sugar or something else? Right? Then the markets. Where am I going to sell? Am I going to sell everywhere? Only the local export or the entire country or Colombo? Something. How am I going to distribute? Is it my own distribution or is it agents? You supply to the agents? How? Market entry. Is it easy to enter to the market? See, think about a kottu shop. It is easy to enter to the market because what do you want to start a kottu shop? You need to have 2 strong arms and 2 deaf ears. So you can do a kottu. But if you want to buy, enter into school shoes. That machine cost something like 40, 50 million rupees. So entry barriers are high, capital expenditure. Right? Buyers, who are your buyers? Who will buy? Is it the young generation? Is it the elderly generation? Which country? Which generation? Which community? Like that you have to think. selling arrangements. How you are going to sell? Is it bulk? Is it retail? How? Then the pricing. Most and is one of the key. Price. You can produce a very good product, but if the pricing is way out of the market competition or the affordability of the customers, you will not produce. Right? So it has to be within these parameters. Consumption, what will be the consumption? What is the continuity of the consumption? What markets we are going to play? Distribution system, market entry barriers, buyers, who will be the buyers, selling arrangements, and pricing. So these things we need to look at when you are talking about the market, determining the market. Once you know the market, we go to the technical evaluation. Then how are we going to do the production? We have two things. One is batch production, second one is continuous production. What is batch production? Batch production is we produce as a batch. Once we do that, we can stop it and we can restart. Another one. Shirt manufacturing, it's a batch production. So, white shirt, 16 size, we produce 1,000 shirts. Then we go to the other batch. There's no much difficulty in changing the batch. But continuous production, you can't stop the plant. Once the plant is started, you have to continuously produce. Steel, then cement, all those things are continuous productions. You can't break it and restart. You can, but your startup cost would be much higher. Right? So this kind of things. Then based on the technology we are going to use, the production methodology you are going to use, we will decide on the technology and the equipment. Right? See, this bottle can be produced with high tech or medium tech. Right? This bottle can be produced by an American Cincinnati machine or an Indian machine or Chinese machine. Cincinnati machine, accuracy and the reject rate would be 0.005. Indian machine, accuracy and the rejection rate may be 2%. Chinese machine may be 2.5%. Hong Kong machine may be 1.5%. Right? Cincinnati machine, 10 million rupees. Hong Kong machine, 5 million rupees, 7 million rupees. Indian machine may be 3 million. Chinese machine may be 2 million. Which one you want? This is not expensive one, so you can afford to have rejections. Accuracy is not a very key thing here. But if you are producing a heart valve or eye lens, then accuracy is the key most important thing. Then you have to get that kind of a technology. So you don't need that Cincinnati machine to produce this. So you can identify the equipment, technology and machinery you want. Right? So first you identify the market, then you identify the production methodology. Based on that, you identify what are the machines and the technology you want. Then once you know those things, you have to identify the place where you are going to produce this. Once I went to a chocolate factory in Sri Lanka. It is somewhere in Dompe, right? I asked him, why are you here? It's not in Colombo, little away from Colombo. It's not in the near main market or not near the airport. They are supplying to foreign market as well. Why? Their answer was, Dompe has the best quality water in the country. For the chocolate production, you need quality water. Right? That's why we install the factory near the water source. Right? Whenever we are locating a factory, we locate the factory near to the raw material source or near to the market. Right? Garment factories. Those factories are located in distance areas to the airport. Why? For the garment factories, human capital is a must. So if you go and place a garment factory in deep Anuradhapura, you can find a lot of girls who are willing to come for the factory at low cost. Right? If you install it in Colombo, you have to find accommodation, cost of living is high, so your salaries has to be high, all those things. Because you can easily transport the finished products. Whereas fish export companies are located near Nigambu area. Why? It is near to the market. Near to the airport. Market means the airport. Market is in Europe. It is near to the airport. So, as soon as you finish the packing, you can send it to the airport for shipment. If you have a factory in Batticaloa, it is difficult to transport the finished goods. It takes time. Then you need to have freezer trucks. So 7 hours to Colombo, 8 hours to London. Right? So it is difficult. So fish, you bring it to one place, do the processing. As soon as you finish, you export. Right? So whenever you are finding the location, it is near to the market or near to the source. Right? Identify the location where we are going to do space, then building drawings, engineering drawings for the building, and those things. Then now we have identified the production methodology. Then we have identified the technology and machinery required. We identified the location where we are going to do this. Then describe the energy, fuel, water. This is the infrastructure. Do we have the power line? Are we getting from the main grid? Or are we getting it from the generator? Or main grid and you have a backup? Or are we using the renewable energy, solar? What? So we have to identify what is the source and what is the volume or the capacity we need. Similarly, water. Are we going to get the underground water or the municipal water? වතුර තියනවාද ඇතිවෙන්න? Is the quality good? What kind of requirement? All those things you need at the water. Like if it is an ice factory, you need so much water, then you need to have several good water supplies. If one is stopped, the other one should be able to, then water storage should be there, all those things. Then roads and the internal roads and the external road. Transportation, how can we transport? Can a 40-footer comes in easily? Is it only 20-foot containers we can bring in? Like that. Infrastructure and those things. Then we look at the raw material requirement. Then maintenance, machinery maintenance, labor training, IT, size of the factory. All those things you have technical side you have to look at. Preparing the manufacturing design, how to manufacture, drawing, leveling, basement construction. That's the factory concern. Technical evaluation, first of all, production methodology, machinery and the technology to be used, then space and the location. Then you have the infrastructure part, which is the energy, fuel, water, and those things. Then machinery, then who will do the maintenance, availability of spare parts, all those things. Then size of the factory, and that. That's the technical part of it. Financial evaluation. Now we did the market, then we did the technical part. Financial evaluation, estimation of capital expenditure, that is the project cost. First of all, once we know the market and the technicalities, we need to find out how much we have to invest in this business, right? Without knowing what will be the total investment, we are playing in dark. I had a customer, he's one of the best printers in the country, right? But he had orders, he had technology, but he was in arrears all the time. One day I asked him what happened. He told me he was one of the few to bring down a 4-color printing machine to this country. 4-color or 6-color? 6-color, right? Machine. Then I asked him what happened. Why are you facing difficulties in paying? And what he told, I looked at the machine, I knew the technology, I did all these things, but I did a wrong calculation in estimating the cost. I calculated the machine cost to the harbor, but I didn't calculate the spare cost, taxes, transportation, installation cost. So I had to incur around 10 million at that time, which came out of my working capital. Currently, I don't have working capital. I'm running on a hand-to-mouth operation. That's why I can't do my orders. That's why I'm not getting the expected cash flows. Right? Then there was another case. I told the customer to fix the pricing. They didn't bother. Then suddenly the dollar changed. His loss was around 3 million rupees. Who is going to bear? They have to bear, not the banks. Right? So these are problems. So estimation of the project cost is a critical event. Then estimate the project cost. Then estimate the different operational expenses, labor, raw material costs, electricity costs, all those things. Then you have to project for the first 5 years and to the almost 10 to 15 over a lifetime. Financing plan, once you know the capital expenditure to be done and the operational expense, that is the working capital part, you know, then you have to project how much is equity capital and how much we need the debt capital and short-term part for the working capital. Based on that, we can project the profitability and the cash flows. Then we go on to do the ratio calculations. What will be the net gross profit margin? What would be the net profit margin, and those things we can do, and then we do a projection. Then the financial ratios and the investment appraisal comes there. Comparison of we have done working capital. Working capital is the money required, the liquidity required for day-to-day operation of the business, right? So we need that. You can have machinery, but if you don't have working capital, as I told you with the printer example, if you don't have working capital, you will have issues. So you need to fund part of your working capital from long-term funding, part from variable funding. So long-term funding is the permanent working capital part, and the variable funding is the short-term working capital part. The cash flow statement demonstrates the need for working capital and specific point in time. When we projected the cash flow, it will show you cash ins and cash outs, and it will show you the deficit and surplus. So we will know when to get money, right? When to borrow and when we can sell. So operating cycle, cash cycle, efficiency ratios, all those things will come into play. Then we do the market, technical, and financial appraisal. Then we have to do the management and the organization evaluation. That's the human capital of the business. We can have a, based on the project, we should have the organization structure in place. It can be a project base, or it can be a matrix structure, or it can be a hierarchical structure. Then different departments will be there, and main roles, managers and job descriptions and all those things has to be there. Each department, administration department, what are their functions? Human resource department, what are their functions? Production unit, what are their functions? And who are there in the administration, and who are there in the marketing, production? All these things need. Without knowing the market, you can't plan any of these things. If the market is huge, you need huge capacity. Then you need huge working headcount. Based on the market, you plan the capacity and the technology. Based on that, we plan the human capital. How many headcount you need, what kind of headcount, like what skill levels you need, what kind of training you need, all those things linked to the market. So market is the key. Find any competencies and skills among staff. Recommending the legal entity, whether it is a sole proprietorship, partnership, joint venture, or limited liability company, all those things you have to project. Then you have to project the human capital requirement for next few years. Right? So that's the management part. So you have to have organization structure, you have to have separate departments. Each department will look after what are the functions and job descriptions, all those things. Based on the project size. We are talking about big projects now. Socio-economical study. Then what is the impact we create to the society? Right? Once I was traveling in deep Surya Valley. I saw a nicely done building. Right? Just that building in that area. Then I went in to see. It is a laptop manufacturing plant. Deep Surya Valley. Right? Then, like, why? Because people were not there around that place, but they brought in the factory. Then after a month or so, not month, 6 months or 1 year, I went back. Then we saw a small shopping area has come in, some eateries were there, some vans were there, transport has come in. Like economy, a small economy has developed around that factory. Right? What is the benefit you give to the society? You create jobs. When you create jobs, money goes into the society. Right? So all girls were working, mainly girls were working there. So beauty items and everything came in, clothing shops came in, eateries came in, because they have to supply lunch and tea and everything to the market, then transfer from distant villages to this place, van service has come in, like that several things has come. So what is the impact you create to the society? Then are we stopping any imports? Are we saving foreign currency to the country? Are we utilizing our raw material? Are we value adding to the raw material? So again, it will affect the society. The contribution to social benefits, adding value to the local needs, job creation, social responsibility, community outreach support. What kind of support you are giving to the community? Right? Okay. Like I'll give you example once again from India. You know Tata, all these buses. Main factory, Tata factory is in Jamshedpur. They destroy the environment, right? The creator of Tata was it? Jamshed G. Nasarwan Tata, right? He created this place, and all the sludge from the furnaces, this is not factories, the steel factories, come out of that, and it creates huge mountains of sludge. So he has given an order to say you have to plant minimum 1 million trees per annum. For so long period, still they are doing it. So it's a beautiful place with greenery. So you are adding value to the society, right? Contribution to local demand, cost and benefit analysis, what will be the cost, what will be the benefit, is it benefits has to be higher than the cost. Contribution to generate more investment and business opportunities and employment opportunities. If I start a raw material processing plant, like we talk about MATI these days, right? Do you know we have sanitary ware manufacturing plants in the country, but we import clay from China, we import clay from Germany. Why? We have MATI here, clay here, but we don't process that. If we start a processing plant in Sri Lanka, we can stop all the clay coming from that area. We have to develop it. So whether your project is creating that, whether your project will be a feeder to several more industries, right? That is called social economic study. What is the impact to the society? Then we go on to discuss the environment impact. What is the best example we had? Environment. Port City. 2015 we were shouting, Port City destroy the environment. All politics. So whether you are destroying the environment, you saw the news. Someone has dozed 2 acres of a wetland, rebuilding wetland. So are we destroying? No, you can't destroy the motherland. You can't destroy the environment. It is for the new future generation, not for us. So is my project destroy the environment? How are they going to dispose the solid waste? How are they going to dispose the water, wastewater? Are we treating? Do we have treatment plant? Like these shirts. I did a project once. This cotton shirts material, cotton material. Like me, I wear only cotton. I don't wear anything else. It takes 10 years to degrade. Whereas nylon and synthetic, it takes more than 50 years to degrade. Right? Because of that, you throw that to the environment, you burn it, you destroy the air, smoke, and the dust. You bury it, you block the waterbed. Think over it. You protect the environment first. Environment will protect us. You can't go on destroying. Our galaxies are melting. Why? Environmental temperature is increasing. Why? Greenhouse gases. Think about it. As a person, think about it. When you are evaluating a project, you have to look at it. So you need to have the environmental protection license, environment impact analysis. Based on the size of the project, you have to decide whether you need the environmental protection license or environment impact analysis first. For projects like Port Authority, you have to have a environmental impact analysis. Then only you can go. You can't destroy anything for the sake of development. Right? So that is the key areas. This one, market and commercial appraisal, technical appraisal, management, environmental, economical, environmental, financial appraisal, estimations, and now we have come to this point. So first of all, before doing anything, you have to look at the market. Without knowing the market, whether it can be a service or it can be a product, anything, right? Even if you produce a shoe, you need to know the market. If you produce a banana, you need to know the market. If you produce a bread, you need to know the market. Even you produce a chip, you need to know the market, right? So all these things, market is the key. Market, then the technology, then the human capital. Then you need to look at the capital cost and the profitability, then social economical impact, and then the environment. Market is the key, all others follow through, right? Now what we go to do on the investment appraisals, that means we are comparing, investment tools are used to compare different projects, right? As I told at the beginning, I have limited money. So I want to know which project gives me the maximum return subject to all other things, right? Monetary terms which will give me the maximum return. These are the 4 appraisal techniques we have. Payback period. Under this method, the time taken to recover the capital investment is considered, right? Payback period, what does we do here? What does it happen? Like, we will decide how long it takes for me to recover the money invested. I have a project, I need to invest 100 million rupees. Can I recover it within 3 years? I have a project A, I can recover within 5 years. I have a project B, I can recover my 100 million within 8 years. Which one is better? For me, 5 years is better. Payback period, whichever the project returns my money faster is the best project, right? Whichever the project, right? Whichever the project returns my money faster is the best project. I don't consider anything else. Under this method, the time taken to recover the capital investment is considered. Higher the rate of recovery, higher the attractiveness of the project. Accounting rate of return. This method calculates the percentage between average profit and the average investment. The project which gives the higher ARR than the cost of capital will be selected. What is the cost of capital? If the ARR is higher than the cost of capital, we will select that one. Then we have net present value. I will not touch that. We will discuss it when we are discussing the net present value and the NPV and the IRR. Key terminologies we will be using. I will take these 3 now. Cost of capital. What is the cost I have to incur in order to raise money for this project? Borrowing rate, right? It can be different things. So what is the cost I have to incur in getting money for this project? Cash inflows from this project, what are the monies I will get into the business, right? Cash flow, you have cash from operation, cash from investment, cash from financing. What are the cash inflows to the business? What are the cash expenditures or cash outflows from the business? That is inflows and the outflows. We'll work these 3 with the example. This is the example. We have 2 projects, A and B. We say one shirt manufacturing and one pen manufacturing, right? Initial investment is same. When the project sizes are different, you can't compare. These projects has to be similar size. Cash flow may be different or the profitability may be different, but size of the project has to be the same, right? Initial investment is 100,000. Then project A generates 45,000, 40,000, 35,000, 50,000 cash flow. Project B will generate 30, 30, 44 and 50. It gradually increases. This is average, right? Depreciation is 20,000 annum and residual value is 20,000. What is residual value? That is the value if I want to close down and sell the plant, machinery, I'm not selling the project. I'm just selling the scrap. All my machinery I will sell. That is the scrap value or the residual value. What is the amount we can say? I'm investing 100 million, but after 5 years, I can sell this machine for 20,000. Right? That's so what we do. See this payback period. The payback period point in time at which the cash flow returns from negative to positive. Right? So your investment is 100,000 like this. You have to invest 100,000. First year, you get how much? 45,000. Second year, it is 40K. Third year, 35K. Fifth, second, third, fourth. Fourth year, it is 50K. This is your projected cash flow. You have to invest, which is a negative figure we take, and then you have this much. So, when we write the cash flows, you write 100, you invest. First year, you get 45,000, right? So you have recovered 45,000 cash. So you have 55,000 to go. This plus this, so it is minus 55,000, right? Second year, I'm sorry. Right? You have this one. Your first initial investment 100,000. First year 45,000 you get. Second year 40,000 you get. Third year 35,000 cash flow, and this is 50,000. Right? So initial investment year 0, it is 100,000. First year you get 45,000. That means out of 100,000 you recover 45,000. Balance is 55,000. Second year you get 40,000. Right? So from 55,000 you get 40,000. You have to get another balance 15,000. Right? Then you go to third year. It is 35,000. So from 35,000 you can recover 15,000. Now it is profit of 20,000. Not profit, additional funding of 20,000. You have cash out, this one 100,000, you invest 100,000, then first year you get 45,000, you have to recover another 55,000, 100 plus 45, 55. Then second year you get 40. Out of this 55, you recover 40. You have to get 15,000. Third year, you get 35, whereas you have to recover only 15,000. So end of the year, you will be left with more than what you have invested, 20,000 more than what you have invested. That means in between the second year and the end of third year, you will recover your 15 million, right? For 12 months period, you get 30. In order to get 35,000, you have 1 year. Now what you want is to find out how many years you need to get 15,000. 1 divided by 35, right? You want 15,000. 1 into 15,000. This is 1 divided by 35,000 into 15, right? That is, you can easily write it as 15,000 divided by 35,000. So, how you calculate that is whatever the amount remains here divided by the amount you will get in the next year, right? So it is 0.29 or something. We'll just check that, right? So you bring down like this, and the last negative figure you divided by the full cash flow of the next year, right? Payback period is the time period required to recover your initial investment. The time period required to recover your initial investment, that is called payback period, right? Let me go back to the presentation. These are two projects, right? This is the calculation. You have 100,000 negative, 100,000 negative. You have 45,000, 100,000 plus 45,000, it is 55,000. You have to recover 55,000. Second year you generate 40,000. Then you have 15,000 left. For the entire year, it is 35,000, 50,000 recovered. By the year end, you have additional 20,000. When we consider the second project, 100,000, 100,000 initial investment is same. First year 30,000, that means 70,000. Second year it is 30,000, that means we are left with 40,000. Third year you have 44,000, so end of the year you get 4,000 addition, right? On the payback period, we are talking about a period, not amounts, right? So what we do, payback period is change in cash flow required to reach zero total cash flow in the year. That means what is the time duration we take to recover our initial investment? Full 2 years plus 15 divided by last negative figure divided by the next year's total. It is 0.43. 2 years plus 0.43 if it is years. If you want number of months, you can multiply it by 12. Number of days, you can multiply it by 365. For first scenario, it is 15 divided by 35, 2.43 years. Second scenario, 40,000, 40,000 divided by 44,000, right? That is 2.91 years. So it is 2.91. Since this is the faster than this one, 2.43 is faster recovery than 4 point. This is almost 3 years. This is less than half, 2.5 years. So project A is better in this scenario. Payback period method, project A is suitable and it is better. These are the advantages and disadvantages of payback period. Simple and easy. You don't need lot of brains to calculate this. If you know your basic mathematics, arithmetics, you can do this. Objective, it is not subjective, it is objective. Why? We are using cash flows. We are not using depreciation here. Depreciation is a subjective matter. It is only a provision. This is the true cash flows, right? Liquidity, commercially realistic. It is, yes, commercially we use how long it takes to you take this. But we are very risk averse in this case. We are risk averse. We don't bother about the after the payback period cash flows. As soon as we recover our investment, we are happy. Disadvantage, project's entire cash flow, maybe the project life is 10 years. At the latter stage, you generate lot of money. But as soon as when you have two projects where first few years you generate higher money in one project and last years lower money in one project, but in total you generate lot of money, a small amount of money in that other project. You generate small amounts in first few years and large amounts in the second year. Compared to two, you generate the second project major money. But under this payback period method, project A will generate the fastest recovery. So we forget about the money generated after the payback period. So you will select project A, whereas the actual major money is in project B, right? So payback period, we want to find out the project which generate fastest recovery, right? So this is advantage. Again, we don't bother about time value of money. Today 100 and next year 100 is same for us under this, right? So this comes to the end of today's session. We discussed about project financing. Then we discussed about appraisal techniques, market, technical, management, financial, economical, environmental techniques, areas to be covered. Then we started the investment appraisal. Under that, we did the first one, payback period, which is the time period to recover our initial investment, right? Next week, we will do accounting rate of return in PV and the IRR. Thank you very much.